Raising Us is sponsored by Nugget, makers of the original Play Couch.
I think the most important thing that parents can do is validate their kids' experience. Believe them, yeah, but also validate that these experiences are real by understanding them, by talking about them.
Parenting doesn't come with a script, but it does come with lots of questions. I'm Elise Hu, journalist, mom, and your host for Raising Us, a podcast from A Kids Co. Every week, we break down the big, timely topics so you can have honest, meaningful conversations with your kids. Because these conversations, they matter. And every time we show up for them, we're not just raising thoughtful kids, we're raising us, too. In this episode, we're shining a light on a topic that is changing schools and conversations around the world: neurodiversity. Each and every day, we hear words like ADHD, autism, and dyslexia. But what if we viewed these more like different ways of thinking and experiencing the world instead of conditions or disorders? To help us better understand how to talk with our children about neurodiversity, we'll hear from two really inspiring guests. In the back half of this episode, we'll hear from Jessica McCabe, the creator, writer, and star of the pioneering YouTube channel How to ADHD. But first, I'm sitting down with Lake Bell, an award-winning actress, screenwriter, director, producer, and voice artist. Lake opens up about her daughter's struggles to cope with and understand her epilepsy. That journey also inspired Lake to write her first picture book, All About Brains, a book about people. But first, we'll start with Lake's own personal journey.
Hi.
Lake Bell.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
No, thank you for being here.
Welcome to Raising Us.
Welcome to Raising Us,
A parenting podcast.
a parenting podcast.
So good. So good. All right. So you've been pretty public about your own neurodiversity and neurodivergence. We are talking about neurodivergence today. So tell us how you first learned about it in the first place, just in your own experience.
I think when I was growing up, it was less spoken about, but considered something really other and problematic. I would argue that it's still considered problematic. We're still working on that, but like less of a, hey, this is your superpower. It was more like, you're in the dumb class. Like I really got pushed to the slow reader class because of dyslexia. And it made me feel dumb, literally. I felt as a kid that I was slower, not as good, won't make it. And I was in a really rigorous academic school. But I just remember immediately being like, oh, this is going to be a tax that I'm going to have to carry. And my mom was really good about it. She was sort of like, that's ridiculous. Like there's this feeling of you need to be a success or something, which is kind of totally contingent on what you consider a success, And my mom kind of was my advocate and was like, she's not slow in that way, and stop labeling it in that sort of negative feeling because you're making her feel less than. And that doesn't help any child.
It does sound like your mother was a good advocate for you, though,
for sure,
in the classroom, and probably for your brother as well, for making accommodations and things. In your own life. Oh,
I want to give one anecdote just to give my mom
shout out to Lake's mom.
Because she said, I remember when they took me aside at this all-girls school and they said, we really want to talk to you because Lake has there is something wrong in the way that she's not, excelling the way the other kids are. And she has a lot of trouble reading out loud. And they were very grave around it. And she was like, well, then she'll get a job where she doesn't read out loud. Like, I don't understand what the problem is. Like, is she reading? Yes, but okay, well, I'm not concerned with it. So, I hear that you're very concerned with it, but it does not concern me. And let's not make her concerned with it, okay? And so that was her energy. And it's so funny because now I'm an actor and all
I was
I
going
do
to say,
is read it
jokes
out.
on them. Jokes on them. Look what you do for a living.
I
You read out
literally am a
loud.
writer and I only read words out loud. So it just goes to show that, I think with, schools can have really good intentions, but that sometimes, and certainly now it's much better, right? We have so much more education about it and everyone's very aware and wanting to learn more as opposed to there's a problem.
Right.
Right.
And now you're a mom.
Now I'm a mom.
And then your daughter, Nova, was diagnosed with epilepsy. How old was she? And tell us a little bit about the journey there.
Yeah. So she, at 1.5, I'm sure a lot of parents have heard of febrile seizures because they're quite common. They're fever seizures. So if there's a spike in a quick onset of fever, it can, trigger a seizure, a grand mal seizure. And it's really dramatic and it's, terrifying. However, the idea is that if you're a child with febrile seizures, you will grow out of that response by 6 years old.
Okay.
And so Nova, at 5 years old, had her first grand mal seizure without a fever. And that put us in a completely different department of diagnosis. And immediately we were like, we realized that she had epilepsy, and it is a genetic mutation, which we found out from genetic testing. I highly recommend that if you're in a position like that and you're dealing with epilepsy. But anyway, so that really helped us understand that this is going to be part of the fabric of who she is. And she was having 11 to 16 seizures a day, not all grand mal, because there's a multitude of different kinds of seizures that can occur, including myoclonic seizures, which are kind of stutter. They show up like that, and sometimes as little as, So we were chronicling, though we had to kind of we kept having to notate when she would be having them, because usually a cluster of those would result in a grand mal. So this was what Nova was dealing with, whilst trying to form ideas and thoughts and understand the world. So that caused a pretty acute amount of anxiety.
And this was when she was in preschool?
So 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old.
Okay. So kindergarten and first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And how did you help her understand it?
Well, initially, it was such a storm in the family because we were trying to figure out we didn't have any umbrellas. We didn't have any, there was too much to discover and figure out all at once, like medication. Okay, now we have to go on a journey of medication. Oh, that's not the right medication. Oh, that one doesn't have acceptable side effects. Oh, that does get rid of the seizures, but it causes rages.
Oh my gosh.
So you're in this you're in the trenches as a family.
Yeah.
And the stress of it was more just triage, like how do we get the seizures to stop?
Yeah.
So that was really hard on marriage. That's hard for my little one, Ozzy. It was just extremely hard on Nova because she's feeling like I'm the cause of this. So initially the echo of just let's get the seizures to end was what was loudest. And then what happened was we realized there was one day where she had a seizure. She had a little myoclonic and she went, sorry.
Oh no. She felt like she had to apologize.
Yeah, because it's the cause of all this storminess in the house, right? So Scott and I, my ex-husband and I were just kind of like, we got to change the narrative effective immediately. So that was a blessing in a way because it really shaped a new way of looking at her condition and how we even react to it,
Yeah.
So I looked at the time she really liked Frozen 2.
Yeah.
There was I looked up all of these, people of note that have had epilepsy. And one of them was Joan of Arc. And Joan of Arc is in Frozen 2. There's like a little reference to her portrait.
That's right.
Yes. And so I remember, and I told Nova, I said, listen, I just have to tell you something. You're not even going to believe this.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joan of Arc, she's a warrior. She's a soldier warrior, like in full, like metal.
Yeah, she was in armor, right?
Armor and on a horse with like a sword and like fought for the people. And guess what? She's like, yes, I know who that is. I was like, she had epilepsy.
Mm.
And she was like, what? And I was like, yes. So she also, like you, look, it just means that you're ferocious. You're smart as hell.
Yeah.
You have initiative and you're you're powerful.
I love that you bring up this example and the way that you use the language around it, because it is worked into your book.
Absolutely. 100%.
All About Brains, a book about people. Tell us a little bit about the book. I know what inspired it.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about the book and the big themes in the narrative.
The themes for sure is kind of a leveling of the playing field a little bit, in that we all have a something, right? People are people. When she would, especially in the throes of her epilepsy, feeling different, feeling other, feeling like I have this silent thing in my brain that no one can see, but that I'm holding inside. I just wanted to let the book kind of allow for there to be conversation that a lot of people, really, so many people are together in their own neurological journeys, whether they know it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Nova really inspired my writing the book because of how she spoke about her condition to her peers.
How was she talking about it?
She actually can speak about what a seizure feels like in a way that's really interesting. Because I was like, what does it feel like? And she explained that it feels like a tingling and numbness in her lips, but that's because of her particular type of seizure. And then that everything goes black, and it's like she turns off and then she turns back on.
But for her to have that language and that expression around it is incredible. You must be very
I
moved.
cry all the time.
Yeah.
I'm crying all the time.
Moved
I
as a
remember
mom.
her talking we were in like Target, and this one time she had sometimes you have to do a 72-hour EEG. So you got to bring all the stuff home. So you have an EEG.
And you wear the cap.
You wear the cap.
Okay.
You have the cotton wool on your head and all the wires.
She's able to sleep that way?
Listen, it's not great, but she does it.
Okay.
I'm so proud of her.
Yeah.
And so you have to, it sucks. Okay. It itches.
Yeah. I tried it for a story once and I was like,
Really?
yeah, in a lab and
Oh, yeah.
just like, I don't know.
So she had to have, for 72 hours so
Oh
that
my
we can see what's going on in the evening. And just, it's hard to catch all that information when you just go into the hospital for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
So she had a 72-hour EEG. She had her little pack. It's like a little purse, little computer purse, and then all the wires. And she was mortified the way that it looks, right? So she was like, I'm not going anywhere. And I was like, okay, whatever you want. Like, we'll just watch TV, whatever. And then we were in the house for so long, and I just said to her, I was like, listen, let's walk around the block. Nobody's going to care. And she's like, no. And I was like, what about Target? Like, I pulled out the big guns.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm listening. And so I convinced her to go to Target, and as we were walking in, she immediately said, pick me up. And then she covered her face in my chest. And I said, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And she's like, I don't want to do it. Everyone's looking at me. I said, listen to me. People are going to look at you for like maybe not even 2 seconds, but like a second and a half, and then go about their business and like pick their nose and keep walking and think about themselves. They just aren't going to, they're going to go look, and then they're going to go, oh, and then shrug and keep going. People don't, they just are thinking about, oh my God, I got to get paper towels. I got to,
Yeah.
what else do I have to get? Oh my God, I forgot everything. You know, it's like, that's where they are.
Right.
Okay. So you have to trust me on this one. And so she just was looking down. She got down and she realized that people just kind of look and then they move on.
Yeah.
They really, they look for 5 seconds, if that. And I was like, let's go to the toy section, you know?
Yeah.
So moving forward. Anyway, so finally she starts getting comfortable. She's walking around and we're checking out at Target. And the lady who's checking us out, beeps. I go, do you want to get an advocacy badge? Because now I'm getting cocky a little bit. I'm getting like, own this, Nova, own it, you know?
Right.
Because she looked at her EEG and then she said, oh, yes. And then she said to the lady at Target, she said, I have a computer in my purse and I have a computer on my head right now. And she was like, oh, cool. What is that? Like the lady was awesome. She just was like, ask questions, beep, beep. Yeah, that's cool.
Oh,
And she's like, yeah, I have epilepsy. And she's like, oh, really? Beep. And all the other people in the line are listening. And she's like holding court and explaining about the electricity in her brain and like that this takes pictures of, and the lady's like, I don't need anyone taking pictures of what's going on in my brain. It's like, and we're having like a good conversation that feels really normal and it's moving on. And she just felt so empowered in that moment. And I was like totally crying. So those are moments that I feel like the power of owning your difference becomes the gold, It's like that's the currency to feeling that self-love, And
it's such an antidote to shame.
Yeah.
Which especially, if you're a child who has been diagnosed with dyslexia or in this case, epilepsy, it is sort of silent. You can't tell immediately. And then this comes through in the narrative of the rest of the book too, because it's not just Nova who's a character in this book. Yeah. And I should point out, this is a children's book instead of all the other media you could make. You could have made a documentary or a film. Why a children's book in particular?
I think I like the idea of this kind of conversation starting young. I know that's the ethos of what you guys do too. I think that the younger and more sort of normalized the conversations we have about neurodiversity are, I think that it seeds this idea that, differences are 100% part of the human condition. Everyone's got one. You know, it's like the river flowing of information about the human experience. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so I think having a children's book was essential. Also because it's through her eyes and through her language and her camaraderie with her peers.
Okay, so I want you to wear your big sister hat and just talk to the parents out there. What do you want them to know ultimately about their kids and talking to their kids if their kids have neurodivergence? Yeah.
So my big thing was like, as your sister, as your big sisters, okay, I just want to say that you're doing a great job. I know it's hard, okay, and you're super not alone. And I know you have these moments where you go, I cannot do it. I'm exhausted. And I can't, it's not fair. Why me or something, right? Mm. So I want to say this, is that we're all allowed to be beholden to our ego. Like, I'm not doing a good job. I'm a bad mother. This is a reflection on me and my choices and how I'm doing it. Truth is like being neurodiverse is just kind of like part of the fabric of someone. So it's not you. Okay. And it's like, it's not going anywhere. So just lean into it. Like, put your big girl panties on and know that like, it's going to be okay. It genuinely is. But it's not a reflection of you. That's what I would say. Yeah. And I would say that lean into your community, look for other people, like get your vent and get it all out with your community. And, oh, this was so hard and blah, blah, blah. And then take care of yourself and do what you need to do in order to show up and deal with hard things. But you can do hard things.
Beautiful. All right, Lake Bill, thank you so much.
I'm like, I have more, but I'm just kidding. No, that was it. Just, we can do hard things. Okay?
Yeah, love it. Thank you for
Thank
opening
you.
up with us and sharing so many great stories.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's Elise, and I, for one, remember those early days of pregnancy with all the decisions that you have to consider and how high stakes it felt to take care of my own body when I knew I was carrying another one. Many prenatal vitamins aren't even clinically tested. Plus, pregnant women, particularly those from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds, are routinely excluded from clinical studies. And for these reasons, I would recommend Ritual's Essential for Women Prenatal. It's the #1 best-selling prenatal and the only leading prenatal backed by its own human clinical trial. And Ritual selects bioavailable key nutrients designed for optimal absorption. Moms taking Ritual reported their prenatal to be easier to swallow, gentler on the stomach, and a better overall positive experience than those taking a leading prenatal. Don't settle for less than evidence-based support. Get 25% off your first month at ritual.com/raisingus. Start Ritual or add Essential Prenatal to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/raisingus for 25% off. Thank you, Lake Bell. And Lake Stories show us that it's really possible to help our children get comfortable talking about their neurodiversity. It's about reframing the conversation to celebrate the beauty in their differences. But how do we help our children learn to navigate the world with other types of neurodiversities, especially one as common as ADHD? Leave it to Jessica McCabe, an ADHD advocate whose popular YouTube channel and book titled How to ADHD gives folks insights and strategies on how to navigate a world not built for the neurodivergent brain. Jessica, you are the author and the voice and the face behind this brand, How to ADHD. So love to know just what tips that you have for parents to help their kids with ADHD.
I think the most important thing that parents can do for their neurodivergent kiddos is to, first of all, understand the condition themselves, so that they can then explain it to their kids or learn about it together. There are a lot of parents who watch my videos along with their kids, which is really nice. I like to say that with any piece of equipment, it helps to know how it works. You're going to be able to work with it more effectively if you understand it, if you know how to read the error codes. If it's something like a printer, right? An error code that's like, oh, if you don't know what it means, you're just banging on the printer trying to get it to work.
Right.
But if it's like, you understand the error code, oh, it's out of paper. Okay, let's get it some paper, right? So I think first and foremost is understanding, because otherwise you're going to be throwing solutions at the problem that might not actually resolve that issue or could even exacerbate it. So if you think again of ADHD as a behavioral issue and you try to punish this behavior when that behavior was happening because the kid was dysregulated, well, now the kid's more dysregulated. Anxiety builds up around this thing, and now you're going to maybe deal with even more behavioral difficulties. So understand the problem that you're trying to solve first and foremost. I think that's the most important thing you can do. The second most important thing I think you can do is involve your kid in their own treatment. A lot of kids grow up and come to my channel and they're treatment resistant because it was kind of forced down their throat. And it was done in this way of like, this is going to make the parent's life easier, right? Or this is going to make the teacher's life easier with that kid in the classroom, as opposed to being more collaborative with the kid and like, hey, this is for your benefit. This is so that you can do the things you want to do and so that your brain works in a way that you want it to work. And so involving a kid in age appropriate ways with their own treatment as early as possible, because those kids are going to grow up and have to be responsible for managing their own brain, for managing their own treatment. And so the earlier you can get them involved in that and the more age appropriate power you can give them in making decisions about their own treatment, the better.
How do you feel like the conversation around ADHD and neurodivergence generally has changed over the years? Jessica, you and I both had brothers who were diagnosed with ADHD pretty early on, but that was like right in the late 80s, early 90s for me.
Gosh, it's changed so much. So first of all, as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about it. We are talking about it openly. We're talking about it on podcasts. We're talking about it at restaurants. We're talking about it with our partners and our bosses and our peers. We're talking about it in a way that we weren't talking about it even 10 years ago, which is really, really exciting. But also we're understanding more of the nuance of it. I actually had the privilege just recently and ending yesterday morning of contributing to the Diva 5, which is out of the Netherlands. It's basically a diagnostic tool used to diagnose ADHD. Okay. And in this specific study, they're basically revamping it to make sure that it is tailored to not just boys and men, but also includes like the experience of girls and women, so that we are able to catch more girls and women who experience this, because so many girls and women go undiagnosed, underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed. I see people on my channel who were diagnosed with depression and it was treated unsuccessfully for 20 years before anybody recognized the underlying ADHD.
Wow.
So the conversation's shifting to be more inclusive of the female experience, of even atypical experiences. We're starting to understand the nuance that it does impact different people differently. And even the tools and strategies that work aren't going to necessarily work for everybody. They're not going to work even for the same person from day to day, potentially. So we're moving away from accommodations that are like, this is what you get all of the time, to this is what you get as needed, which is really, really phenomenal and heartwarming to see, because that's really what we need. At its core, I think ADHD is a disorder of inconsistency. It's because of the inconsistency, we often don't take ADHD very seriously, because like, well, you can do it sometimes. You can focus when you want to. You can focus on video games. Like, why can't you focus on your homework? You should be able to. But that difference, that difficulty regulating our focus, that difficulty regulating our attention, our behavior, our sleep, our emotions, that is ADHD, right? And so I think understanding that there is no one neurodivergent experience, there is no one size fits all treatment or accommodations. And it really is an ongoing thing of like, let's figure out how your brain works. Let's figure out what your brain needs at any given moment, as opposed to this kind of top down, let's just get you neurotypical. We're trying to get people to be functional, which is a lot better goal. It's possible. We're never going to be neurotypical. Like at best, we can look more neurotypical or seem more neurotypical, but that often comes at the expense of our own mental health, our own ability to focus, our own well-being. And now it seems like the conversation is shifting to like, let's help you thrive. Let's help you function. And that might mean looking neurodivergent. It might mean if you're autistic, you're going to stim in public. It might mean if you have ADHD, you're going to use a fidget to help you focus. And you might just have to advocate for yourself and educate you might have to advocate for yourself and educate other people that even if I'm still struggling to focus, me using a fidget is actually helping. It's not what's distracting me. My brain is what's distracting me. My ADHD is what's distracting me. So I'm using these tools. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen in terms of the conversation shift is people are speaking about it openly and advocating for themselves instead of just apologizing for themselves.
If your child has a neurodifference of any type, how do you best talk to them? You know, what are some scripts for talking to your kid?
So far, I have a 16-month-old. I have a 16-month-old. And so far, we're just talking to her about our neurodivergence. I have ADHD. I have anxiety. My partner is ADHD. He's autistic and ADHD and also has PTSD. So we talk about it. When we struggle, we're like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, dad struggles sometimes, or dad needs to step away because he's overwhelmed and he needs to settle his litter. Basically, mom did something impulsively, or mom forgot the keys. So we're going to go back to the house because mom forgot the keys. And that's something that her brain struggles with, is remembering to bring things. And so we're just starting talking about that, which is, incidentally very similar to the advice that I've heard about talking to your kids about emotions. You start by naming your own emotions. You start by talking about your own emotions. And so if you are neurodivergent or suspect neurodivergence, talking about your own brain and your own struggles can be a way to avoid the shame and the othering that can happen when you're just super laser focused on like your kids' struggles, right? I saw my brother grow up feeling really disempowered because everybody was so focused on his struggles. Mine were more internal. So that was a whole other thing. They got missed and I didn't get the support that I needed, but he got a lot of like top down support of like, you need help. You are not okay. And that's, it's hard. I think it's hard for kids to grow up feeling like a problem. So the more that you can talk about your own neurodivergence or your friend's neurodivergence, or like, hey, Stevie struggles with this too, right? Instead of putting all of the focus on your kid's struggle, just make it really normal, I guess, that different brains struggle with different things. And your brain struggles with this, right? Like, I don't struggle with this, but I do struggle with that, right? Like dad has a really easy time building IKEA furniture. Mom will do it wrong every time because like my working memory and set shifting and I don't know, my brain just doesn't work that way, but my brain is good at this, right? So like talking about your struggles, talking about your strengths, And then also just normalizing that they might have struggles and strengths too, because everybody does, and theirs might look different from their peers or, or even their parents. But it is very normal for different brains to have different struggles and different strengths. And I think it's important to be careful with the superpower narrative. That's something that goes around a lot lately. And I understand the appeal of it, right? Like you don't want to just tell your kid they have a disability because of the stigma around disability. But the truth is, ADHD, autism, like this can be a disability. And rather than avoiding the term, maybe taking the stigma away from the term is a better way of dealing with it. But even if you don't want to talk about the disability piece of it, which is important because that's how we get accommodations. That's how we get accommodations in school. It's how we get accommodations in work. It is acknowledged as a disability. But even if you don't want to go down that road, I encourage parents to talk about struggles and strengths, because as soon as you talk about superpowers, ADHD is a superpower. It's my superpower, or autism, it's your superpower. It's not. Unfortunately, that's not what the research says. It is not a superpower. They might have strengths that their neurotypical friends do not have, and they might even have strengths that their neurotypical friends don't have because of their ADHD or because of their autism. But their diagnosis itself is not a superpower. And by saying that it is, it kind of perpetuates this idea that we are only worthy of acceptance, we are only worthy of belonging if we somehow make up for the fact that we struggle. We have to be exceptional in some ways because we struggle in these ways. So the more we struggle, the more exceptional we must be in this other way to be valid as humans. And I think it's really important to teach your kids, like, you are valid as you are. Like, you can have struggles that are greater than your strengths, and you are still a worthy human. You are still worthy of love and belonging, as Brene Brown puts it. We all are.
Saint Brene Brown.
Yeah.
All right, Jessica, we'll let you wrap it up with any 2 or 3 takeaways that you want parents who are listening to come away from this episode knowing.
Yeah. So one is going to be straight from my community because I've learned so much from them as well. And so I went into my Discord through Patreon, which is a bunch of ADHD brains from all over the world. And I asked them what they would want to disseminate, what they would want parents to know in terms of how to talk to their kids. And one of my favorites was this: you're not broken or bad or wrong. Your brain works differently, but many people have trouble understanding what that's like and how hard doing things can be. I think the most important thing that parents can do is validate their kids' experience. Believe them, yeah, but also validate that these experiences are real by understanding them, by talking about them, by listening, by being curious about their kids' experiences, because the entire world will try to invalidate those experiences. And that is changing. It's improving.
Yeah.
But that is what it's going to be, right? In classrooms, we still see things like, you have to listen. And what that looks like is hands in your lap and eyes on teacher and quiet hands, right? Like sitting still. There are neurotypical standards that your kids are going to come up against on a regular basis. They're going to be corrected about their own experience to the point that they may no longer even believe their own experience and be out of touch with what their brain needs. And so the more you can reconnect them with their own experience, the better.
That's a lovely note. Whatever your journey looks like, please keep this in mind. There's no right way to parent a neurodiverse child. Celebrating differences and staying curious helps create space for our children to grow and thrive. For more tools and resources, visit us at akidsco.com. Thank you for listening to Raising Us. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows. Raising Us is sponsored by Nugget,